Welcome live to the #LetsGetLouder LMF's podcast. I am the Town Miami fan. You can call me Chase, and this is my podcast. Welcome to everyone who's joining me live either on YouTube or the podcast platforms such as Apple or Google. No matter where you're finding LMF content, I'm happy to have you here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Big things happening this week. Fans, ladies, gentlemen, kids, it is opening day week. And Thursday, we are going to be at Lone Depot Park, where these 0-0 2024 Miami Marlins are on top of the National League East for first game and hopefully beyond as we start a 4-game series this week versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. I will be there in the hat, in the garment, live at Lone Depot Park. I hope you skip it as well as you skip work, skip school, skip your daily activities to join me, LMF, at Lone Depot Park to celebrate the 2023 team that is still here as they made the playoffs last year. We haven't seen them. We didn't get to celebrate with them in Pittsburgh last year. So we get to do that. I've seen them all spring, but this week it matters. Real baseball that matters is back at Lone Depot Park, and I hope to see you out there live either Thursday for opening day or throughout the weekend. And you can go to marlins.com to find your tickets that are still available, or any of the third-party platforms that have some upcharges and whatnot. But there are still tickets left directly from the Marlins. Go there, and I hope to see you live this week. So this is the LMF's podcast known as #LetsGetLouder. Big news happening in my world. As you know, I've been trying to grow this podcast, trying to grow this platform of mine, the base. And I hope that you follow me into the PSF app, the Pro Sports Fan app. If you go to your store and find that, they have hired me as a media caster, so I will be on that app throughout the season doing live media casts through games when I'm at home and not at the stadium, and also doing a weekly or bi-weekly show. We're working out that as I record this. So I look forward to not only having the LMF podcast app, but the #LetsGetLouder LMS podcast for you to listen to, but you can see me more on that other app. So I hope that you do follow me there. So big things happening. Spring training is over. We have our 5 starters in what is called the opening day rotation, as projected and announced now, where Jesus Luzardo, the guard dog, the lizard, as I like to call him, the Zard Dog, old Office reference there. But the Zard Dog is our opening day starter. For the first time, we have a new starter since 2000, I want to say 19, as Sandy had 19, 20, 21, and 22. So that's a big change. Sandy's out for the year. We'll see if he comes back to Miami next year. And if he does, if he will be the opening day starter when it's a battle between him and Luzardo, if they're both still in Miami. The second starter, it's been announced that I believe it's AJ Puck or Ryan Weathers. I'm sorry, I'm missing the order here. It just disappeared from my screen. Eddie Cabrera on the DL. Braxton Garrett on the IL to start the season. Yuri Perez on the IL to start the season. So that leaves the only real proven starter in Jesus Luzardo taking the mound on Thursday. Friday, Saturday, you get a mixture between AJ Puck, Ryan Weathers, and into Sunday. And then Monday, it's been announced that the 5th starter is Max Meyer, however you want to pronounce it. I'm excited to have him back I watched his first start a few seasons ago before Tommy John, and he went down after his first start. Wasn't great, but he is back in the majors. He was supposed to start in AAA, and really, you have Trevor Rogers coming back. He is the fourth starter, I want to say, out of the five, so he'll get Sunday's game probably. Um, and I'm looking forward to seeing Trevor back on the mound in a real game situation, not spring. He hasn't pitched since last April um, in a major league game, and you hope that he can return to his 2021 uh, skill set and his performance when he was the only representative of the Miami Marlins in Colorado for that All-Star game in 2021. I watched Trevor Rogers grow a little bit in spring that year. He was amazing in spring, and he didn't have it this spring, but you hope that he um, gets back to that performance that he did. Ryan Weathers, he has some question marks. He hasn't been good in major league starts since his rookie season when he kind of broke out, we'll call it, in the playoffs for the Padres. And I think that was 2021 or 2020, where he made his major league debut that season and he was good. But ever since then, he hasn't been good. But Mel Stoudemire has taken over, right? And you see what a broken down Jesus Luzardo underperforming with the Oakland Athletics, and you want to compare that to a Ryan Weathers and see if Mel Stoudemire can bring his performance to a new level. Then you have AJ Puck, another Oakland Athletics pitcher, former Florida Gator. He has not pitched as a starter in many years, but they built him up this spring to be the other piece to starting. It was supposed to be a depth piece, but due to the injuries, he's going to be on the mound in at least opening day weekend into the season for the first couple weeks until Braxton gets off the IL, until Edward Cabrera gets off the IL, and of course Yuri. Speaking of Yuri, good news: no elbow surgery. He met with the doctors. That was announced by Peter Bendix, then Yuri, last week. That's amazing news. On the last Let's Get Louder LMF's podcast, we kind of discussed where we were with speculation, and it didn't get to the point where he needed Tommy John, so he's not going to miss the whole season. He's already throwing, not pitching, but throwing, and they'll build him back up. So it's going to take about a month to get him back on the mound. But you're happy to hear that your depth that you built up as Kim and NG and now Peter Bendix have built in this team on this roster throughout the organization, that it could come to fruition and you can actually use that depth, not having Sandy Alcantara's 200 innings all year long. And we wish Sandy the best. We hope he gets well soon. So that's your starting rotation. Again, Luzardo's getting opening day. Then you're going to get Weathers, AJ Puck, Trevor Rogers, and Max Meyer. Max Meyer. I'm always going to butcher that name, and I apologize there to him. But Mighty Max will be on the mound, we know, on Monday night versus the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And then it restarts. The Marlins have a full week of games, a plethora of games, a full 7 days. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have the 4-game set. You have the Angels in town Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, you go to St. Louis for the first road trip of the season. You get your first off day a week from opening day and a day on Friday, and weather, of course, permitting. You then have Saturday and Sunday in St. Louis before you go to your next city. We hope to have a good record by then. You hope in the first week with a 7-game homestand, 8-game week, you hope to be at least 5-3 in there. I think it's very doable to at least split the series, if not win it versus the Pirates, who have upped on their roster. And then you have the Angels, who lost Ohtani. They still have Mike Trout. They really didn't add much this postseason or off season. But Major League Baseball, there's a lot of talent. You got the homecoming of their first baseman who went to FAU. He's going to probably have a lot of fans in the stands. Go Owls! And you just hope for a nice homestand, a 7-game homestand to start the series, to start the season, and you hope to get at least out of those 7 games 4 wins, if not 5. Um, and then, of course, you go on the road versus St. Louis. And St. Louis always plays the Marlins difficult at the beginning of the season. Last year, I think they swept us in their home ballpark. It was part of that right out of the All-Star break, horrible 2023 out of the All-Star break, 8-game losing streak. But different season, we can go there and win. They are a different team. They really, I mean, look, we've seen them all spring. They had tie games. They've seen each other. They're at the same home in spring training. So it's always weird that you play them right out of the gate throughout the years, either here in Miami or away. Um, but it's going to be fun, and we'll get to some predictions again. I hope that we could have a winning homestand to kick off the season with this team who lost Jorge Soler, who lost some dead weight pieces, and Jacob Stallings. You lost a dead weight piece in Joey Wendell. You pick up Tim Anderson, who had a horrible 2023 in Chicago. You hope he signed that 1-year deal and it works out for the $5 million. But that's this team. So we're going to go through the projected roster as far as the players that will be on the field, not pitching wise. I'm not sure on the bullpen. It's not completed yet, but I gave you the 5 starters already. You know that George Soriano will be in the bullpen as a long guy, an extra starter. You wonder if Brian Hoeing will make it. Um, Depending on how the Marlins feel about the starting pitching is how they're going to build a bullpen. You know that Tanner Scott is going to be your closer. You know that Andrew Nardi is going to be there. Didn't have a great last spring game, but that's your bullpen guys. Sixto Sanchez made the team. He is now number 18, no longer number 45, which will be worn by Skip Schumacher. His father passed away last week. If Skip listens to this, my condolences to you. You raised a good child. You're raising your children well, and that's the legacy you pass on. So, Skip, my thoughts and prayers are with you on the loss of your father. But Skip's now going to wear 45 and 55. I think 45 on the first game of each series, and then goes back to his number 55. But with that change, Sixto's no longer having number 45. Sixto's changing to number 18, last worn by Joey Wendell in previous seasons, last worn by Jeff Conine in the 2023 World or 2003 World Series, I should say. Speaking of Conines, Griffin Conine did not make the team, but he is someone who can come up and help with his power throughout the season. Troy Johnston didn't make the team. Dane Myers didn't make the team. They are not on the opening day roster, but they have the potential to move up on this team throughout the season. You know, injuries are going to happen. So there's a little bit of power depth, as you saw in spring, not proven power, but in spring power and good batting averages. Hopefully they can make a difference throughout the season as rookies. I look forward to getting a Griffin Conine baseball card. I don't have one. I don't want to buy Toronto Blue Jays. I don't have a Jumbo Shrimp card or Wahoo card of him signed. So he's one of my non-baseball card lineups. I can't put him in. Hopefully I get to get him in a Marlins uniform card, a rookie card next year or in towards the end of the seasons when series 2 and 3 comes out on tops. But anyway, back to the roster. And before I get to the positional player roster as projected, they haven't announced it officially, but we kind of know what's going on. I did want to give my first sponsor plug on this show, like official sponsor plug. So let's do that. And let's talk about In the Clutch apparel. In the Clutch has a wide range of Major League Baseball's Player Association, the MLBPA. They have shirt designs approved by them for all of your 30 baseball teams and more. There's other sports that they have too, but let's talk baseball. So right behind me in this video, if you're watching on YouTube and you follow hashtag Let's Get Louder LMF's podcast, you will see the line of many of the shirts, including LMF apparel. The Let's Get Louder official shirt is on intheclutch.com. Go there, search for your favorite city. All of those teams' shirts will pop up. And you see Jazz has a bunch of shirts, including the brand new Jazz like Jaws shirt. You have Jake Berger. He has a brand new shirt out. You have De La Clutch for De La Cruz, Brian De La Cruz. You have Arise has a couple shirts. Jesus Luzardo, Jesus Sanchez has a couple shirts. Josh Bell has a couple shirts on there. So come see on intheclutch.com, and at checkout, when you're ready to purchase, go to checkout and put in the coupon code LMF. With that coupon code, you will save a percentage off of your purchase. So let's get ready for the season. Go make your purchases on intheclutch.com right now. So back to the starting lineups or projected positional players. You know most of them. There hasn't been many changes this spring, right? You have Arise will probably lead off. Then you'll have Tim Anderson, a mixture of Jazz, Bell, Berger in the 3-4-5 spot. Then you get to De La Cruz and Jesus Sanchez. Maybe one of them is the DH. You'll have John Birdie somewhere in the mix here throughout the season. And of course, Avisail Garcia, Nick Gordon, Ardell Brujan has made the roster. So a mixture of utility guys, infielders, outfielders. You're in a good position. Big question mark is, can Avisail Garcia, maybe healthy, maybe practiced with Arise all off season, can help bring his bat to life, and he can actually do something and earn his $12.5 million this season into next season. And who knows from there? They have to pay him $500,000 to leave the team if they don't pick up his option after the 2025 season. But we're on 2024. He is on this team. They are not eating that money. So you hope that Avisail can kind of have a bounce back year where 15, 20 home runs will really help this team win. You hope he doesn't ground out or get called out on pitching violations or batting violations with that pitch clock. Let's just root for him, cheer him on, give him some confidence. You know it's down, but let's give it to Avisail Garcia in a nice, passionate way. No need to scream bad slurs at him. Let's cheer him at the ballpark. I mentioned Jazz. Jazz is not a cleanup hitter, but you may see him in the fourth hole. Jazz, the whole season, the whole team is built around him, right? They brought in his friends, Tim Anderson. They brought in Nick Gordon. Jazz is the spark plug on this team. And if he can stay healthy, and we know he can, he did in 2021. If Jazz can stay healthy and hit 30 bombs, 40 bombs for this team, it makes up for the loss of Soler. And he, again, is the spark plug of this team. So rooting always for Jazz Chisholm Jr. to do well. Then you have, I mentioned Arise, batting champion. Maybe he could do it again for a third consecutive year, unprecedented in baseball. Maybe he could get the batting champion again, second time in the National League. You hope he can keep his average up. He was on fire coming out of spring. Tim Anderson, comeback season maybe. He's only here 1 year, unless they extend him for more and he has a good time and will accept a low tendered offer, we'll say. Or, maybe he'll be traded at the deadline after doing well. But you hope that Tim Anderson improves on his past performance in the last few years. So really, that's your start. Josh Bell's coming back. Bell and Berger, power bats, right? One after another, they protect each other, whichever order they're in. They have to hit home runs. You hope they can replicate their second half performance. You hope Berger can replicate his first half when he was with the Chicago White Sox, where he hit 25 home runs before August 1st. You hope he could do that again, maybe more. But you also want him to make contact, get on base, be on there to be driven in. He has some speed, whether he's playing third, first, or DH. Same with Bell. He had a great half season or a couple months here in Miami. You hope he can replicate it as well. Um, Mentioned obviously Nick Gordon. He had a decent spring. Vidal Brujan, he has to make the roster. They don't have options on him. They're not going to waste him. They traded for him. You hope he has some decent performance coming off the bench. He's not a starter. And I didn't mention the catchers. So you have lost Jacob Stallings. Nick Fortes is still on this roster. Is he the backup? Is he the starter? Well, it's going to be a platoon between him and newly acquired Christian Bethancourt. Christian Bethancourt has an arm, man. He throws people out all spring or threw people out all spring. He's great defensively. Can he match it with offense? He's statistically hit in the low 220s, 230s in the regular season. You hope he can bring that average up to maybe 250s. You're not going to get close to 3, but you hope around the 250s. You hope for no double plays or lack of double plays. The problem in the 2023 Marlins was double play after double play, killed any momentum that was started, whether it was Joey Wendell, Avisail Garcia, Jacob Stallings, but 2 or 3 of those guys are gone. Gene Segura, gone. This team, as just mentioned, is better than the 2023 opening day roster on paper, healthy. And you hope they can build on the previous seasons. You hope DLC, you have the first half DLC from last season versus the second half DLC. You want the August, September 2022 DLC, the one who hits above average, the one who hits home runs, the one who's clutch, the de la clutch, as shown directly behind me if you're watching the video. De la clutch. You want that guy. You hope Jesus Sanchez, who is coming in, confident, you hope he can hit lefties. If he could hit lefties and the bombs and the power he has, he's going to help this team win. You just hope no strikeouts. These guys are not patient at the plate. No one I've mentioned, none of this roster, except for maybe Luis Arise, is patient at the plate. And that's going to cause some strikeouts. But you just hope they're not in positions of when it's bases loaded or 2 men on or a guy on second or third and you're striking out, bouncing into double plays, which kills your chance at scoring. So you hope that doesn't happen. But I'm confident in this team, and my confidence is based from the years past. Pitching, a little different. Coming into spring training, I was very confident on the pitching. But you had Braxton, you had Yuri in there, Edward Cabrera. Again, I'm in and out of him. I hope he's not the walks king, as he showed his control. What's all in his head? His control last season wasn't there. But these 3 starters are not here for the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season. And that's not going to be beneficial to the start of the year where you're starting out against hot teams like the Yankees were there in the first road trip. I mentioned St. Louis, Angels, Pittsburgh. You hope that the guys who are in place, the non-proven arms, the AJ Pucks, the Ryan Weathers, the Max Mayers, that team. You hope those 3 starters can do well, and you hope Trevor Rogers, man. Again, you hope he could be the 2021 Rogers pre-injuries. Can he get back to that velocity and that control that he had for the first half of that season? Let's see if Mel could work his magic. Again, I'm not so confident on the pitching. The bullpen's good, but you can't wear them out. You saw down the stretch in 2023, this team was just worn. The arms were just dead going into that playoff series versus the Philadelphia Phillies. So you hope that they come out stronger, better than they were at the end of last season. Really, that the spring was all about health and building them up, and we're not coming out healthy, but that's good. You get reinforcements during the year. I'll be a little a bit more detailed on that as we get through the first week where I can actually speak on performance. I'm not going to judge. Look, they had great springs, but none of that matters. 2, 3 innings, you only go through the lineup once, or twice. I want to see how they do that third time against the opponent's lineup because that's what matters. Can they stay in 5, 6 innings? You have to eat up innings if you're Marlins pitching. There's no options here whether you can eat up innings or not because you have to make up for them. It's 200 innings you've lost in Alcantara. Now, or Alcantara. Now, Sandy didn't have a great year last year. He had 3 complete games, led the majors, but his starts were wonky. But he gave you innings. Even on a bad start, he was making in the 6 or 7 innings. And you've lost that, and you hope these young, unproven arms can make up for that in any way, shape, or form. You got Maldonado, didn't make the roster, may not make the roster. Again, it hasn't been announced. Monteverde, both of them on the 40-man will be up or down throughout the year. So you have some depth. But it's all about the start. Again, I'll be okay if we start 5-3. We go 15-12. Just stay a couple games above 500 because you're going to face the Braves. Quite frankly, own the Marlins. You're going to face the Mets, who seasons past own the Marlins. Can the Marlins still stay a foot above the Nationals? They're a better team. The Phillies, they may add a pitcher here, but Phillies are a good team. Let's not sugarcoat it. Their roster's a $300 million roster, and they are a good team. Pitching, they signed their 2 best starters to extensions the last couple years. They're not going to lose Wheeler. They're not losing Nola. So these teams are the top tier. Can the Marlins beat them? Can the Marlins position themselves to play for a wild card? Can the Marlins position themselves to really just stay on top to play for third, a wild card? Or can they take that step forward and beat the Braves, beat the Mets? I don't mention the Phillies there. Yeah, they kicked our butts in the playoffs, but Marlins owned the season series 7-6 in 2023. They did not beat the Braves. They did not beat the Mets. I think they won like 1 or 2 games versus the Mets out of the 13. So they got to do better. And that's the difference of a playoff team versus watching the playoffs. You hope they can make it. And it'll be the first time in team history, whether they're wild card or a first-time division winner, that this team will have made the playoffs 2 years straight. It's never happened. We have 97, we have 2003, we have 2020, and then 2023. But they haven't won consistently or consecutively 2 years in a row in a winning record. And you hope they can do that with at least 82 wins, 84, 85, 86. That may get you the 6th wild card playoff spot, 3rd wild card, the 6th playoff spot. You hope they could do it again. And let's talk about projections and where I see this team. As the headline of the show is predictions, right? So let's give some predictions. But before we do that, again, let's talk about intheclutch.com for your apparel. Use code LMF at checkout. MLBPA approved t-shirts. Every team's represented. Go to intheclutch.com, search your favorite city, all your team shirts. But also, I mentioned at the start of the show that LMF content has a new home, and that's the Pro Sports Fan app. Please go to PSF in your app store and find the Pro Sports Fan app. Go download it. Go join. The links are on my social media on X. Join. Enjoy that content and bring out the Pro Sports Fan in you. Are you the next media caster like me? Well, only you can do what you choose if you join the PSF app and bring out that Pro Sports Fan in you. So prediction time. for the season. Prediction time. Well, I like to be a positive fan, an optimistic fan. You know that. You're an LMF fan. You know how I roll. I believe in this team. I really do. And it's not because I support the ownership and what they don't do and how much they don't spend. It's not that I support the leadership as far as the changes in the office from the past, but I do support the players. And the players support me. We have a good relationship. So I back the players. And I do truthfully believe in this team for the first time as a team mentality for in a long time for two consecutive seasons. We tried to get behind the 2020 Marlins in 2021, but that team was not a good chemistry. And listen to the pivot and Jazz's comments on why. Or today on the Chris Rose show on YouTube, you can see Miguel's response to Jazz. I'm not here to talk about that, but I am talking about team chemistry. And Skip Schumacher, as your manager, changed the culture from the bottom single A Florida League teams up to the major league teams. The whole organization has changed their mentality. You could see it at spring. And I believe in confidence. I believe in this team as constructed. Can they add pieces later? Yes. There's some question marks. So where do I see this team finishing? I see the Marlins finishing between 76 and 84 wins. I know that's a large number as far as where they can fall there. I will throw out as a prediction the Marlins go 83 wins this season. They do not make the playoffs. They do not make that wild card. The National League is stacked with expensive teams and bigger rosters that should hold down the playoff positions. I do have them finishing third in the National League East with 83 wins. I'm not going to project on the Braves, Phillies, Nets, or Nationals. This is a Miami-based show. I have the Marlins finishing third in the National League for the second consecutive year. I do not have them making the playoffs, but I don't have that as a step back from last season. It's just the team overachieved and other teams underachieved in 2023. I have them finishing third. I have them, let's go, 82 wins, over 500. Still a winning franchise, a competitive team, showing you all season long they're going to go up and down from that 500 area or around it. Last season, they got to 16 games above 500. They're not going to do that again. They don't have the easy June, have the disgustingly tough July or August this year. It's more, the schedule is more equaled out throughout the season if you look at it. Can they overachieve again? Yes. With the question marks to the pitching, I can't see them being where they were last year. But they can prove me wrong, and they can overachieve, and they can get to the playoffs again as the sixth or fifth seed. I would love for them to have the first wild card, but they have to come out strong, and this pitching has to prove itself. I do believe Jazz will stay healthy this year. Last year was a freak toe accident. He had a surgery. He's coming in 100% healthy. Jazz may be the first guy on this roster to be given an extension if he performs. They are building the franchise around him, it looks like. They still have many years of team control, but hopefully they could lock down the spark plug in the heart of this team. I also believe that at the end of the season, Luis Ariz will be given some sort of extension. I do not, here's a bold prediction. I do not think Josh Bell finishes the season with the Marlins. I believe winning or losing, he will be traded at the deadline this season to bring in prospects. There are players that should be on this roster that aren't, and they can kind of come in and replace him at some point. Of course, that's Troy Johnston at first, Dane Myers in general. So those are my kind of thoughts there. Those are my bold predictions. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope that I've pumped you up for the season. I appreciate your support. Go support me by going to intheclutch.com and using code LMF at checkout. Show them that I'm bringing you to their site. Go join PSF. Follow me there. You're going to see a lot of content. More to come on that. And I thank you for listening to this episode of the LMF hashtag Let's Get Louder LMF's podcast. Whether you're watching here on YouTube or later listening on the podcast platforms, just search hashtag Let's Get Louder. Please go give me a 5-star rating, a like, a comment, interact with me on social media at Loud Miami Fan. Season's here, guys. This will be the last episode before opening day, and we'll do one of these each week. And let's get louder together at the ballpark. I hope to see you. Take a picture with me, post it on social. This has been the hashtag Let's Get Louder LMF's podcast preview and prediction show. Let's go, Marlins. Let's frickin' go.